Welcome in. I'm Rita, and this is the story I'm telling myself. If you've ever felt like you're standing in your own way, you are not alone. Let's get into it.
Another Tuesday is here, and Tuesday is my favorite day now because I get to join all of you on the Story I'm Telling Myself podcast live. So if you are with us today, hop in the comments. Please come say hello to today's guest, Donna Cravotta, and you are going to love Donna. I love Donna. Everybody that knows Donna loves Donna. Donna, tell everybody who you are.
I am Donna Cravotta, and I live in New York. I'm about an hour north of the city now, but I grew up in Brooklyn and slowly made my way north. And this is as far as I'm going. But I have a business where I help women over 50 become intentionally visible. It's kind of evolved over the years. I started my business in 2006, so this is my 20th year. But what it has evolved into is helping them remember their stories, remember who they are, and build a business that is sustainable and realistic and really showcases the person that they are and the work that they want to do in the world, the difference they want to make for this third act in their lives.
Well, and I am grateful. I've been one of the people that's had the opportunity to participate in that with you, Donna. You can reach Donna on her website. That's going to give you access to all of the information, ways to connect in with her. So her last name, CravottaMediaGroup.com, and we will link that in the show notes for you if you head over to the podcast channels to get this. And this is an episode you're going to want to share with other people, especially people that are headed into those transition periods of your life, because it doesn't even matter. You could be young and in transition and still find a lot of wisdom in what Donna shares. She has an awesome newsletter. She's over on Substack. So yeah, go out to her website and get connected into Donna. If you are with us, thank you for being here live. We love having you in the comments. The show is for you. So please jump in, introduce yourself, add your thoughts, and ask any questions that you want to ask Donna along the way. So Donna, you really are on this mission of remembering. It has become the center of almost everything that you are talking about and doing right now. And it's a really important story for all of us to hear. So would you step us into the story? Tell our listeners why you feel like the call to action today should be remembering.
This didn't come into play until about 3 years ago. I was at a crossroads in my business. I had built an agency I didn't want. Was just wrapping up with 2 clients that were really challenging. One was a big company, and another one was somebody who had, 3 different books and all different types of, visibility assets. And they were both really challenging. And when I was done, I was ready to onboard 3 new clients, and got my son off to college in the pandemic and dealing with a health issue. And I reached that Calgon moment, and I was like, I just need to stop because I built a business I don't want, and I am not happy, and I'm working too hard. I'm too stressed. And if I keep this pace up, I'm going to kill myself. And that's not what I want to do. So I just stopped, and I took myself through what I used to call a content audit. And that content audit was me going through really 40 years of work and what I did when I had a job in a law firm for 25 years. And then what I did in my business, which I started a virtual business in 2006, which nobody had virtual businesses in 2006. So it changed along the way, and I did whatever I had to do to kind of keep my business going and evolving with changes in technology and just the general online landscape. And
I'm going to pause you there. Before we even get further beyond the content audit, before you even got to the content audit, the first story you had to overcome was the story of, should I stay or should I go?
yeah.
Do I stick with what I know, or do I allow and I think a lot of people, for myriads of reasons, are facing that crossroads challenge right now. What were some of the stories in your head that made you question whether or not you should permit yourself to make a transition, Donna?
Oh, the stories. I mean, like, we really beat ourselves up so spectacularly, don't we? I mean, I was just
Indeed, we do.
reinventing yourself again. Who do you think you are? Like, what are you going to do? These people, I mean, I was making a lot of money. They were like, if these clients, I mean, I said no to this big client was, they had already paid me like $500,000 and they were going to pay me another 100,000 just to maintain what I built. And I walked away from it with no prospect.
That's a big thing to talk yourself into in many regards, right? Hey, Meryl, I'm so happy you're back. Meryl's in northern New Jersey. Yeah. But yes, this success, we are driven. I mean, from a young age in education, we are taught achievement, succeeding, all these measures that get built into our very physicality, right? Of really, so here you are, you're at the top of your game. And realizing that this isn't the path to happiness for you, and making that choice of like, am I willing to change potentially my economic situation?
Yeah.
That is a very difficult conversation for most of us to have with ourselves, let alone anybody else.
It was a moment of choosing, because when I started my business because I was a single parent and I couldn't be far away from my child and like know him. You know, I was on a train at 7:20 in the morning, and most nights I didn't get home till 9, 10 o'clock at night. He was getting ready to start kindergarten, and I was like, oh, this is not a sustainable option anymore. But what am I going to do? It's just me. So I started a business, but because I started a business out of necessity, and I started it at a time when what I was doing didn't really exist, I just, I built a business based on what people needed, not what I wanted. So now I was at this inflection point where I had a little money in the bank. I had a little time because my son was off to college, and I actually, for the first time in my life, I was like, well, what do you actually want? And because I stopped and asked myself that question, I actually honored it enough to answer it. And
wow. Okay. We just got to say that again, because that's very powerful. That is the first, and I'm telling you, there's going to be so much wisdom from Donna in this conversation. Gail, another wise woman, is in the room with us. But this idea of just pausing to ask, what do I want, and honoring it. That's the part. So many of us, we allow our inner judge, our inner critic, that unreliable narrator to say, but do you, like, you don't really matter, like something else, right? So that honoring part of honoring what you want and really being willing. Do you remember, was it easy, or did you have to sit with that for a while?
oh, it was not easy. I was walking away from some significant money, and they were also new clients waiting to come on board, and I said no.
So you got to disappoint people. Sometimes in order to honor yourself, you have to disappoint others. And I can't speak for men because I am not one. And Meryl, feel free to jump in. But for women especially, and mothers especially, I think one of the common struggles that we all share is that willingness to disappoint others.
I'm really good with that now.
But at the time, it was more of a struggle, right?
It wasn't so much about disappointing other people. It was about, did I value myself enough to put myself before what they needed? Like, was what I needed more important than what they needed? So it was.
So am I allowing myself to be at the top of my priority list? Yes.
And that was new for me. And that was very uncomfortable. And money, I mean, I was walking away from a lot of money, but I couldn't do it for another day. And I was like, I equated it back to law firm land, which is what I call it. And, when I left law firm land, I walked away from, the most pristine set of golden handcuffs. And, the ability to be in this company that had been around since the 1860s for as long as I wanted to. And I said, no, thank you, several times, because they created opportunities for me to stay. And I kept saying no, because I knew it was not an option anymore. And I had to figure out my own path. And at that point, I was 42 years old. And I said, well, if I don't take a chance on me now, I'm never going to take a chance on me. And it's time. And that was the first time I did that. And 3 years ago was the second time I did that. And it was hard. And it was hard because I didn't know what I was going to do next. I had to figure out what I had already done to bring forward what I wanted to bring with me and let go of what I didn't want to do anymore. And that was what I called a content audit. And when I took myself through it, I was like, this is no content audit. So I started to call it tried and new, because it was this combination of the things that I've tried that I knew worked, that I was going to bring with me, and knew what new has to come in. And at the time, AI like ChatGPT had just been launched for a couple of months. And I realized I was a human AI. Like, I'd been doing this for decades. I was just doing it manually. So things that were taking me 5 and 6 weeks to do, I could now do in 5 or 6 hours. And I was testing it out on myself. So I was trying out the new tools with my experience and all of the things I've done over 40 years. And when I worked in law firms, I was on the admin side, and I basically did every job on the admin side of a large global law firm. And just bringing those things together and having AI as this impartial partner to be able to pick through all the things that I was overlooking, because it was just part of who I was, so I couldn't see it. It pointed out all these things that I was doing, and I was like, huh, I guess that is me. Really? Impressive. And that's me too. And that other one, me too. Like, I could basically do anything. And then I got to decide, okay, so now I went into my favorite Greg McEwen quote: I can do everything, but I'm not going to do anything. I can do anything, but I'm not going to do everything. And that's what I started to sort things out. So I created buckets: what stays, what goes, what could be upcycled, recycled, what could be given away, what could be sold. And then in the middle of all this, I find this show on TV called The Gentle Art of the Swedish Death Cleanse. And it's exactly what I'm doing. This is something that they do in Sweden. Before you die, you go through your stuff so it's not a burden for your family. And all of these stories that they're sharing are like exactly what I'm doing with my business and my content. So I started like adopting things from that. And, I just pulled together this whole process between AI, what I had been doing for years with my content audit, and I built myself a new business.
Wow. That's, I mean, inspiring. Absolutely inspiring, Donna. Welcome, Leanna. I'm glad you came to the show. You were really speaking to Gail's heart. She said that giving permission is the most powerful thing we can do. I agree. And that learning to not sacrifice ourselves for others is a huge shift that we all need to permit ourselves to have. And it is important because, as you are pointing out, Donna, it is not about abandoning others. It is about when you choose to embrace self, you can show up the best for others,
Yeah,
right?
if I would have said yes to those 3 clients that were waiting in the wings, I would not have done a good job. I would not have shown up as my best self, because I needed to take care of me first. I needed to put on that oxygen mask because I was not in a good place. I was like deep into the empty nesting thing. I was healing from a significant health issue. And, I was just upended with, accepting that what I spent years building, I didn't want.
It was time to evolve. I mean, that feeling of this is not enough anymore
Mhm.
was your internal call that it's time to evolve. And you were honoring, but you
Yeah.
were also giving yourself space to
Yes.
honor that. And that's something our guest, Gary Spencer, from a couple of weeks ago, but in his first episode in season 1, he talked a lot about that, about in his times of transition, and he's had several in his lifetime, he always takes a big space. And that is something that so many times, again, our unreliable narrator inside of our head is telling us, oh, no, you can't. You got to be productive. this isn't productive. This is navel contemplating, all of these kinds of stories that come up. So what were you experiencing during this time? And what were some of those internal stories that you had to overcome to really give yourself the space that you needed to evolve?
Well, one of the things that was a recurring theme was for years, I did this combination of social media, PR, SEO, content development. And, some of it was experience I had from the law firm. I did PR there. I built training programs. I trained people globally. I instituted their global online training program. I did big work there. We implemented their first CRM, their first automated expense reporting system. Like, we took them from like forms they were using in the 1940s to global implementations of automated systems. And, when I first started my business, I had a very definitive, that was then, this is now mindset. And I didn't want to bring anything over. And when I had a client that needed PR, I went and I hired a PR coach. I was like, okay, well, I'll learn how to do this. 2 sessions in, she said, you're my colleague. I'm giving you your money back and I can't teach you anything. You can probably teach me a few things. And I was like, what are you talking about? I never did PR. And she goes, well, what did you do in your job? And then I told her how I managed the media kits for 250 partners and managed the M&A transactions globally. And she was like, yeah, that's PR. But it was just work because I would take on all these projects because I was bored. But what I did in my business is I just started trying things on and seeing what fit. So when I was going through my tried and new process, I was in the dressing room and I was just,
I love that visual.
Do I want to do
Friends,
this?
you need to embrace this visual of the dressing room. That is brilliant, Donna. We can try things and discard them and say, that's not the right one, or there's got to be something better. And it doesn't mean that we're insufficient or that we did anything wrong or anything. Like, that dressing room metaphor is, oh girl, that is beautiful.
And what I did was, like, I started to really put things in the buckets. This stays, this goes, this could be upcycled, this could be recycled. I could sell this, I could give this away. And I started to recognize I've been doing this for years. It just never had a framework. I just called it a content audit. And as I was taking myself through this and then putting things through AI was pointing out to me what I was really doing, because I was still in that, even years later, I was still in that mindset of a law firm, that this is work, that my value is in 6-minute increments, and that's it. But I was recognizing how I have taken these parts and melded them into something else. And I was always doing things that were unique, that were different, that were really hard to explain because nobody else was doing them, because it was this mishmash of all of these millions of things that I've done. And AI helped me really put that into perspective and put that into frameworks and recognize the value of what I was really doing. I never felt like I was a PR professional because I had no training. I was never a traditional PR person. When I started actually doing it, I was like, I just need to teach people how to do this, because people that don't have big budgets have no right paying somebody to do PR for them. They need to build the relationships with the journalists, with the podcast hosts. And, so I've been teaching people how to do this for, 15 years. But I never felt like I was like a content person or an SEO person, but I've been doing this for years, but I always took a different approach. And all the things that are since AI came out, all of the things that are coming up as the new trend, I've been doing for 15 years. So
I want to welcome Jay. So glad that you could join us, Jay. It's always great to have a new friend in the house. And let's sort of zero in a moment on what you are sharing, Donna, because what is so beautiful about your story is it's our one of our little subtitles is remembering over reinvention, and AI is sort of seen as this new technology, this new tool that's very disruptive. But you've actually embraced that disruption and turned it into something that is an engine for extracting the best of our remembering. Like, we are constantly learning and building. I was sharing with you before the show went live that I'm building a leadership curriculum right now. And it's bringing me back to so many learning content areas. It's like, oh, I haven't thought about that in a while. And I utilize that all the time, but I've got to teach it. So I've got to break it up into another way. And we are always throughout our life building our own internal wisdom and then somehow losing sight of it.
Yeah.
Because you've taken this disruptive tool and turned it on its side and made it an engine of discovering self.
Yeah. It's a mirror. It's a mirror. And I, so through the whole process, like, things just kept evolving. And just one story on how I used AI. I'm losing timelines here because I'm just never stopping. But I guess it was about a little over a year ago, I had this epiphany over a weekend that what I do is intentional visibility. And then I start poking around, right? And I start looking at some notes I had. I listened to a podcast interview I was on, and I've been talking about this for 2 years. I didn't even recognize it. But I recognized it because I went in and I re-listened to a podcast, and I started to look at my notes, and I was like, oh, I've been working on this for 2 years. So now that's like everything I do is under the umbrella of intentional visibility, that it's not for everyone, that you don't need to worry about, getting in front of millions of people. You don't have to 10x anything. Like, really think about what you need and then adjust and connect with the people that you want to connect with, the people that you can help, the people that you can make a difference for. And when you can really dial it in and then pull in your sound bites, pull in the things that only you say, and AI is great with that too. I mean, like, one of the things that I'm doing, also during this 3-year period where I was reinventing myself or rebuilding myself or remembering and reclaiming who I was, I launched something called the Real 50 Over 50. This is how Rita and I met, because I interviewed her on my live stream show.
Yeah.
And this is our 3rd birthday month, and I've had 145 interviews and 18 panels. And since the beginning, we've been booked 4 or 5 months in advance. And it all started because I got pissed off at Mika Brzezinski and the Forbes franchise of, 50 over 50 or 30 over 30. But if you want to be featured as one of their people, and you're a founder or a small business owner, you have to have a minimum of $10 million in revenues. And that pretty much eliminated everyone I know.
Right.
And I just got really pissed off thinking about that. And I was like, I know all of these incredible women. So I just started to make a list. It took me 15 minutes to make a list of 50 women I knew over 50 that were doing incredible work, and not enough people knew about them. Did keyword research. Everything was about hair and makeup, and your body's falling apart, and you might as well just stop now because it's all downhill from here. And then I bought the domain, the Real 50 Over 50, for $1. And I said I should have had to fight for that or pay for that. So I swung back to my list, and I said, if I just started doing interviews, would you want to be interviewed? I had 40 interviews booked in 2 weeks, and it hasn't stopped yet. And
I remember responding to I can't even remember how we first connected, but yeah, I mean, I barely made it into the first 50 group, I think. And I mean, you were right. I mean, it was, but it resonated. What you were talking about resonated so much, which was really embracing and celebrating the win and the victory for everybody, versus putting it's set parameters that were not inclusive of. There's all kinds of ways to win in life, right? Mm-hmm. And they're not just about the economics of things. And it's somebody who, knowing your backstory and how you stepped out of that makes a ton of sense. Martha is great having you new to the show as well. And Felipe, I'm so glad to have you back again. There's a question here I want, before we get too far along, Donna.
Mhm.
Meryl wanted to know how can you give any examples of how you use AI to try on different things in the dressing room to really give them an idea of what that process is like in your world?
Okay, so I'll give an example. Right now, I just launched a Substack about a month ago. It's called the Intentional Visibility Project. And a big part of that is going to be sharing the real 50 over 50 stories there to branch out onto a new platform with all of these incredible women that have shared, I mean, just remarkable stories that they shared. And I haven't been doing a good job of repurposing the content, which is not like me, because I'm all about, like, squeezing every bit of juice out of content. But I
We're
just,
also developing so much
yeah,
new content. That is
right.
a struggle that I find as a content creator. Is if I'm burning brain cells on new creation, I don't typically have a lot left over for that reinvention. So
But I I don't usually create something unless I could do 5 things with it, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with it, and I didn't wanna start going down the wrong path because it wasn't just me. Like, I don't mind experimenting and screwing up with this me, but now it's like, "Okay, this is army of women, I don't wanna screw this up." So I have been sitting on Substack for about 3 years now, but I finally went through, and what I'm building there is the beginning of a media platform for women over 50. And so what I did was I went into Google Notebook LM, which is a part of Google's suite of AI products. And it's a closed environment where when you upload your sources, it's only going to go through what you upload as a source unless you ask it to go externally. So I uploaded the transcripts of 145 interviews and 18 panels. And then I started asking it questions. There are also some predefined things that you can do in there as well. And one of the things that you could do is a data table. So I asked it to pull together a data table of all of the interviewees, their names, and the wisdom bomb. At the end of every interview, I ask for a wisdom bomb, something small and actionable that you could take with you and, apply in your life. So it pulled together the list in like a minute, but it gave me some feedback. And it said to me, well, that's good, but those wisdom bombs they're staged because they know it's coming and they want to wrap it up with something that's polished and professional and really encompasses everything they want people to know. But the good stuff happens in the middle when they're in the flow and they're saying things that they don't even know they're saying. So I said, great, make me a list on that. So it added another column and it did that. And then I asked it to pull a list of the topics and it added another column with the topics. And there were 347 topics that we talked about over a period of 3 years. 347 topics that women over 50 who are in the entrepreneurial space care about. It's so powerful. I mean, I just sat looking at this spreadsheet and I realized that if I never did another interview, if I never wrote another piece of content, that there is enough content right here in this one library that took me about an hour to set up that can carry me for the next 10 years of my business.
Right. And so the trying on different outfits is you had one idea and I've had this experience in using AI as well, is it'll make a suggestion and it'll be like, I never thought of that, but yes, please. My answer all the time is yes, please
Yeah.
to so many of the suggestions. So it's like having that personal shopper.
Yeah.
You say, I want an outfit like this. And they say, well, as long as you're trying those things on, would you be interested in this? Right. I mean, AI sort of acts as your personal shopper who's coming to the dressing room and making other suggestions, based on what they've already known about you. And it is a powerful thought partner in that way. I find that as well. Thank you for sharing that.
So now when I prompt, I first start with don't blow smoke up my ass. That's the first thing I say. Because I don't want it to lie to me. And and then I'll say what I want and it'll come back to me and it's always honest. And like
Yeah,
one,
I don't know if AI's figured this out about our human personalities, or if some engineer has taught this to AI, but AI likes to affirm, it likes to stroke our ego.
yeah,
So it is good to give something like that, because it is a very affirming. At least the ones that I use are, you're so smart. I mean, it says all these things that you want to hear, right?
my AI doesn't do that, and it doesn't really learn anything. It connects patterns, is what it does.
Yes.
Everything is an equation. It's only looking for the next logical word, but Perplexity and Claude are more honest than ChatGPT.
Yeah, I don't use ChatGPT, but
Yeah,
I do like Perplexity quite a bit
yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah. Claude
So
literally tells me to go to bed. It's
so
time.
so Donna, there is in these moments of transition, it doesn't matter what stage of life that you are in. I mean, I happen to be part of your Real 50 Over 50 cohort. And so we are in our unique, midlife transition, but it can happen to you when you have children. You were talking about, your son getting ready to go off to school, and you're rethinking, right? It was a transition point, rethinking, what do I want my relationship to be with my son? And if in order to have that, then what else has to change in my life to make that possible, right? There's all kinds of those pivotal transition moments. But in that transition moment, I think for people approach that, people come into those moments on one or the other end of the continuum, and one is very easy and one is more difficult. One end of the continuum is the kind of, heck yes, I'm all in, like, there's a shiny new future I can see that I'm just like, nothing's going to hold me back, I'm going. And then there's the other, when I haven't figured it out yet, when there's still a lot of uncertainty and doubt that is present. And our ego does not like uncertainty. Our brain does not like uncertainty. It likes predictability. And so there's a more trepidatious path of walking into a transition where it feels very unstable. And there's that tension point of, do I stay or go tension point? Based on your experience, what wisdom would you want to impart to our listeners today about coming into, when you come into that and you don't have that clarity and you're feeling that uncertainty, navigating that pathway of feeling like, do I need to reinvent myself? That question of, is it time? Do I need to reinvent myself? But also honoring the remembering of who you've been and all the wisdom that you bring along with you.
The first thing, before you start down that path, because it's always harder than you think it's going to be, it's going to take longer than you think it's going to take. And there are going to be lots of unexpected twists and turns and ups and downs. I think the first thing to do is to remember to trust yourself. That you really, ultimately you can get help from people and tools and professionals, but ultimately you're the one that has your own answers. And if you go into it with a commitment and a promise to yourself that you will trust, that you know best for what's for you. I mean, like when I did it, what the anchor for me was, like when I had my son, everybody on the planet comes to you. People you don't even know when you have a baby come up to you and give you their advice. And
That's true.
and my promise to myself at that point was I was going to have this visual of a colander, like a spaghetti strainer, and I was going to put everything in there. And what fell through, I was just not going to pay any attention to. And what got caught in there, I was going to give it a second look. But I was always going to trust my own instincts as a mother first. And I kind of took that same approach when I decided it was time to really shake things up in my world. And, I'm open to hearing and to listening and to other people's stories and advice, but I have to put it through my own filter to make sure that I know it's right for me. And that's never That's never not been true. So remembering that when you feel like you have no answers because it feels like the bottom fell out, remembering that is incredibly powerful. And like when I talk about this remembering, it's about so much more than just your stories, but like the work that I do with people is almost always on Zoom. And, when it all starts with, I have nothing to say. I have no stories. I'm nothing. I'm invisible. And then we just start going through their Google Drive, or we'll go through their Dropbox, and I'll say, what about this? Or what about that? Or I'll ask them to, go find 5 things that you haven't thought of in a while and bring them to our call. And we'll go through it. And then you start to see them sit up a little taller. You start to see them smile and like shine a little bit. Their eyes get like happy. And because they're remembering these parts of themselves as they're contemplating what they're going to do next, and they're questioning if they have the expertise, if it's for them, who do you think you are, starts coming up. And like all of those little imposter syndrome gremlins start kind of beating you down. And systemically, our society is groomed to put women over a certain age down. And we fall right into that. And when you start to realize that you've already done this before, now you have evidence that you can do anything. Because of course I could do this. I did it 4 times.
Yeah, it's true. I can remember just a small example, but our firstborn, there's 5 years between our kids. So she spent a lot of years as an only child. And so in the summertime, I would sign her up for all kinds of camps. And she would walk in not knowing anybody. It wasn't like I would talk to friends at school and say, what camp are your kids going to? She had certain passions and loves. And so I would sign her up regardless of what anybody else was doing. So she often was walking in but I would remind her, you did this last year. You went to the camp. You didn't know anybody. You made a friend the first day. You're going to make a friend the first day. Like, you don't have to feel nervous or upset about it, right? So by the time she's going off to college, she hasn't done that in a while. She stopped going to camps, but I could remind her of like, you used to do this all the time when you were younger, like, that kind of thing. So it is true. Like we have more knowing than what we often access.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it is just trusting ourselves and doing the deep dive and accessing our own knowing. And sometimes it's helpful to have a partner alongside of you that can help you do that, which is what you do for all of your clients. Yeah. Well, we are at time. I've scanned through the comments. I don't think we have any additional questions at this point. If you, I should put it up here one more time. It's Donna's last name, Cravotta Media Group. That is how you can reach out and connect with Donna. Again, she is very active right now, building some new stuff over on Substack. You can get on her newsletter, get her wisdom, follow her journey. Donna, I am so glad we got to go the reverse side and I got to interview you this time and share your wisdom with all of my listeners. It's a pleasure to have you here with me today. Thank you. I'm bringing another female hero to next week's conversation. We are going to talk with Bobby Carlton, who founded Innovation Women, who's on a mission to put women on stages to showcase their knowledge and wisdom to the world. So you guys, it's like we're in a theme here of hero women of mine, because Donna is one of those. So be sure that you plan to come back again, same time next week. And until then, have a lovely week. And don't forget, this is going to be on the podcast channels Thursday. So send your friends there. Make sure you share this episode with Donna. Donna, thank you so very much for being with us.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you for chiming in, everyone.
Thanks for joining us. If you love this episode, leave us those 5 stars and be sure to share this with a friend. And if you didn't, don't worry about it. See you back here next week.